Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Eli Camp, and this is my podcast, Vital Wisdom. This is where I talk about health, wellness, raising children, homesteading, and lots of other topics, all from a vitalistic perspective. I believe the body can heal itself if it's given what it needs, is not poisoned, and if the innate healing ability is supported and not suppressed. It's my intention to bring what I have learned in my life, especially in the 24 years that I've been either training or practicing to be a physician, to help you be your own best doctor. This episode is part of a 12-part series where I and one of my mentors, Dr. Letitia Kronenberg, talk about what we call the axioms of naturopathic medicine, of holistic medicine, really, of vitalistic medicine. Each axiom can really be thought of as a law of natural healing, and they guide a naturopathic doctor in the practice of their medicine. They're not often discussed, but they're critical for understanding how the body becomes and stays healthy. Or on the reverse side, when they're violated, how a body shows signs of illness. Thanks for joining me and enjoy the episode.
All right, everyone. Welcome again to another vital conversation. And we are talking again about the axioms of nature. So I'm welcoming today Leslie Cisar. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad I get a chance to do this with you. We haven't had a chance to talk probably since one of the vital gatherings. It's been a while.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm surviving in the Chicago suburbs.
Yay. Well, it's a lovely day here in Spokane. Also, it sounds like it's nice and sunny for you as well.
Yes, nice and sunny today, which is nice.
I love it. Love it. Well, let's see. Today we're talking about holism. It's the number 10 on the axioms of nature. And I'll just start with a couple quotes that I usually start with for these talks on the axioms. I chose the term axiom. I'll read you the dictionary definition here because it wasn't a tenet really. These aren't tenets. They're not laws. They're not, they didn't quite fit the definitions. And so I picked the term axiom because axiom means a statement or proposition which was regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. So we know these are self-evidently true ways the world works, the planet works. And that's why I chose that term, because I believe we all know these things, but they haven't been codified really and written down. Lindlar has written a lot about them, but not in a real succinct linear fashion. And so to pull these things together, and this is what Jim Sensenig and I started years ago, was to pull these things together. And what are there more than 5 of these axioms? Are there 6? Are there 7? What are they? And we would talk about these as we pick through Lindlar. We would identify them and debate them. It's like, well, is this part of that one, or is this one part of that one? Because they flow so much into each other. Sometimes it's hard to actually sort out, like suppression or individualization or minimum dose or dual effect, or all these things, they fit together. And so that's been a challenge. And Lindlar has it throughout his whole book. He has all of them. So it's been difficult to sort that. But, as everything that's actually true, that's truth when spoken, you can find these axioms in so much other writing, in so many other ways. You see it once you know them and can identify them, you start picking them out of other literature. and other types of medicine. And it's really intriguing to see it because they're always there. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's really neat. And
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
it reminds me of what Dr. Zeff said, that even if there are no more naturopaths and the word naturopathy, kind of fades off into, unknown history, our medicine will still exist because it's based on the laws of nature, which are discoverable, right? So
Right.
people will rediscover naturopathy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it will always be here. So one way or another. Jim Sensenig says, I always like to say this quote with these talks. Naturopathic medicine is based on universal principles that are true and hold true for all time. We don't have to change what we're doing for the 21st century because the same rules and laws that apply to nature and the natural process of healing are immutable. So we don't have to change what we're doing, and we haven't had to change what we're doing. And really nothing in Western medicine has really advanced other than some technology, but they still based allopathic medicine on principles that are opposing to natural law.
Right. And I think what I find so amazing about Linlar, and just so everybody's aware, we're really drawing from his book, either called Nature Cure, or my edition is The Philosophy of Natural Therapeutics, which is nearly identical to the Nature Cure book. But when you read, right, his approach, his understanding of what is health and disease, he didn't know the biochemistry. I mean, they didn't even know vitamin C when he was writing this stuff,
That's
right?
right. Right.
So he was able to, like you're saying, just by being a true scientist, right? Truly observing the world, and certainly a philosopher as well, looking for truth. He was able to identify these universal principles without the quote unquote, what we call today, scientific knowledge, right?
Okay.
So I think that's a real testimony, like you say, when you understand these principles and you can start to see them described in other cultures. You can see them play out in literature. You can see them in the Bible. You can see them play out in so many different areas across so many epochs in so many different cultures because they're true.
Right.
It's really amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's so neat to discover them because then all of a sudden you go, oh, there it is again, you know?
Right.
Yeah. 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 I love it. I love it. Um, well, I'm going to actually pull up an old quote here. And this one was in the Nature Doctor's book, and that I teach from a lot when I do the hydrotherapy courses. It's Arnold Rickley, and I call him the sun guy because he would always do sunbathing. But Rickley, they have him from 1823 to 1906. And there's a quote in that book that they pulled out. It says, since each I can't wait, let me start over. since each individual forms a complete whole, and each disorder also affects the whole, the entire organism has to be taken into account to improve the problem. A merely local treatment proves the physician's short-sightedness and must be declared a bungling patchwork. So there's an old definition of holism right there. You have to consider the entire organism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In modern day, we call this complex systems,
Right.
right? Welcome to complex systems, right?
Yep. Well, Leslie, do you have other things there from Linlar that you can point out, and then maybe we can go through some cases or.
Yeah, why don't we do that? So, in the book Nature Cure, or Philosophy of Natural Therapeutics, there's a chapter at the end called The Threefold Constitution of Man. And I think, you and I were talking before, this chapter really gets to the heart of this concept of holism and complex systems, right? And so, do you want me to read a little bit from the
Yeah, sure.
chapter?
Go ahead.
So he says, man lives and functions on three distinct planes of being. And he describes those as the physical or material, and that would correspond to our body. The mental, which he would call what we would call our mind, and the soul. Okay, so the three distinct planes that we live on are the physical body, the mind, and the soul. And he says he may be diseased upon any one or more of these planes. The true physician must look for causes of disease and for methods of treatment upon all three planes of being. The purely materialistic physician concentrates all his study and effort upon the physical material plane of being, right? So this is definitely, certainly allopathic medicine. This is definitely functional medicine, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
To him, that would be the physician, mental, spiritual, psychic, and moral phenomena are merely the chemical and physiological actions and reactions of the brain and the nerves, right? So our soul, our mental, our emotional component is just sort of the biochemistry, right? Just the little molecules just kind of tinkering around in there. On the other hand, mental healers, Christian scientists, and faith healers concentrate all their efforts upon either the mental or the soul plane. Now, why does he call out Christian scientists? I think this is very interesting. My great-grandmother was a Christian scientist. She became one as an adult, so no one else in the family was a Christian scientist, but I'm tickled by this because of my family connection to Christian Science. And when Lindlar is writing this, the Christian Science movement was very prominent.
Yeah.
So he says that these types of healers are concentrating all their efforts on either the mental, that would be the mind, or the soul plane, frequently making no distinction between the two, right? And Lindlar is saying that those are two distinct aspects of our being, right? And so in the treatment of disease, they ignore the conditions and the needs of the physical body, and some of them even deny its existence. These metaphysicians are like the artist who devotes all his time and energy to the study and the practice of the technique, say the violin technique, the harmony, the counterpoint, but neglecting the violin and taking no heed to its mechanism, if it's in order or if it's filled with rubbish, right? His knowledge of the laws of harmonics and his execution may be ever so perfect, but if his instrument is out of tune, he will produce discord instead of harmony. Right? So he says the true artist, right? And again, the physician being the artist, right? The true artist realizes that the mind, who is the player of the violin, must study the soul, which is the harmonics. Every musical system has its concept of harmonics and musical theory. And that the mind must also have its instrument, the body, in perfect condition in order to interpret perfectly and artistically the harmonies of the symphony of life. Right? Likewise, the nature cure physician will look for causes of disease and for means of cure upon the physical, mental, and soul planes of being. So if that doesn't sum up complex systems and holism, right?
Right. Yeah, right there. And that's what is so unique to naturopathic medicine, is that we address those things in a very different way than allopathic medicine, and a very different way than other traditional medicines too. I think that's one of the things that makes us uniquely naturopathic. Yeah.
And I think, I just did an intake with a new client yesterday who has been working for the past year with a functional medicine, I'm assuming medical doctor. I'm not exactly sure, but it's a functional medicine practitioner at a minimum. And taking her case yesterday, right, there were some significant aspects to her childhood that very likely on the soul level, certainly on the mental level, would have a tremendous impact on her physical body. Her digestive tract was basically gutted by the time she was 13 years old. Well, again, where do we feel anxiety, right? We can literally feel our emotions within our body, and we frequently talk in this way. But when it comes to, a teenager being raised in a home with a lot of chaos, and then on endoscopy, the stomach lining is completely shot for a 13-year-old. No one takes into account any sort of mental, emotional component to that. And now in her, in her 50s, spending a year with a functional medicine practitioner, she says, I have no appetite. I never eat very much. Even if I eat until I'm very full, my family says, Mom, you didn't really eat, you hardly ate anything.
Mm-hmm.
She is currently taking 19 different supplement formulas.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Right? I mean, this is kind of like a record breaker.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like 19 different products. So every product has, it's not like there's one thing in one product, right? Every product has multiple components to it. So the functional medicine doctor, right, is just, we ran all of this expensive testing. This is what came back on the specialty labs. And now I'm going to give you a physical pill for every physical thing that came back on the lab work. And nobody thought to look at what is her appetite, right? If we have low appetite, we have low digestive function, right? That's a protective mechanism that the body employs. Hey, if I can't break this food down, I'm going to make her feel full real quick, right? That's the intelligence of the body protecting us from doing something, putting food in that we can't break down, right? So no thought to this significant digestive issue going back to early teenagehood, likely due to significant chaos in the home, which is still playing out today in the family dynamic. And then just throw a bunch of supplements with no thought. If you can't eat food,
you can't digest bad nutrition.
How are you going to get it out of a supplement, right?
Yeah, right.
So this became very clear, and we've all have stories like this, right? This just happened to happen to me yesterday. And let's go back to Lindlar, because I like to pull in his 6 principles, right? So what are the methods of treatment that are in conformity with the constructive principle of nature? This is in his Catechism of Nature Cure chapter, right? So number 3, build up the blood on a natural basis. That is, supply the blood with its natural constituents in the right proportions. This is what functional medicine is, right? This is why you get 19 supplements. We're going to try to build up the blood with all this stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a pill for an ill. We see you're deficient in this, so we're going to give you that.
Right. But can we get it through the digestive tract?
Not happening if she can't eat food. It's just
exactly right. So this is where, right, if we tie this into those 6 principles that Lindlar talks about, this woman has a massive blocker to fulfilling this 3rd principle, because she doesn't even feel like eating food, right, which the digestive tract is designed to work with. So we can trace one of the blockers to her health based on this principle from Lindlar, right? I can't build up the blood until I can get her appetite so that she feels like eating a full meal and can actually break the food down, right? And then I'm not going to need 19 supplement products. She's going to get the nutrients out of the food. Maybe there's a little tidying up that needs to be done with something targeted, but we're getting food.
Yes.
into the system with the nutrients in the food, right? So we can see, right, when we take a holistic approach and we're actually thinking about the physiology of the body, etc., we can see, oh, wait a minute here, what Lindlar's talking about on this third principle, I've got a blocker here that needs to be corrected.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know yet, but I've had many clients where mealtime was a source of shaming in the home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so is that impacting someone's ability to eat and have a good appetite?
Right.
I've had cases where it is.
Yeah.
Right? If
Yeah.
we have had a soul level injury, or we're carrying around, false mental content or beliefs that were laid down at mealtime in a dysfunctional family environment, could that impact our ability to eat and break the food down and therefore build up the blood?
Yeah. Yeah. She's got definitely some blockages there that need to be worked through. And the first treatment outcome there with Lindlar, I'm looking at the 6 horses here, establish normal surroundings and natural habits of life in accordance with nature's law.
Mm-hmm.
So she probably, I'm guessing, has some blockages towards just relaxing and eating, just
Mm-hmm.
being able to have a comfortable, safe place where she can nourish herself. You know,
Yeah.
Is
Right.
she safe? Does she feel safe? Is she safe in her surroundings? Is she safe in understanding or having the concept that eating actually nourishes her?
Right.
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 Yeah.
And when you look at the culture today, everybody's grabbing a smoothie, running out the door, getting
Right.
in the car, right, in a stressful traffic, right?
Yeah.
Again, is that in accordance?
I don't think so.
Right? Is that in accordance? It's not, right? And so, um, absolutely, could this be generating a blocker? For sure.
For
Even
sure.
people without abuse at mealtime as a child, right, can fall, can become susceptible to this due to the cultural
Yeah.
influences.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. What a great way to highlight these situations. Interesting that gal came in yesterday to see you.
Uh-huh. Right. And in addition to um 2 of the 19 things that she was put on was hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes, right? Because again, that's so ubiquitous within the natural medicine space. Everybody needs hydrochloric acid and everybody needs digestive enzymes. But again, she did that for a year and it did not improve her appetite. It did not improve her ability to eat a full meal, right?
Yeah, what you're doing there is you're just replacing what her body should be doing. You're not supporting her body to do it itself.
Exactly.
And that's what we do as naturopaths is we do that. We do that with hydrotherapy. We do that with bitter herbs. We do that with so many different approaches that we can employ that functional medical doctors don't even understand. It's that paradigm shift, right? It's like I have I've had a number of young people say, well, don't I just need digestive enzymes? I'm like, no, you don't. Your digestive enzyme should be working for you yourself. Your pancreas and stomach and should be producing its own. I don't want to replace what you should be doing. You're not a 90-year-old lady
Right.
who's, can't produce these things in abundance. You're young and healthy and should be producing this on your own. So I'm not going to replace that because it'll make your glands lazy. I don't want to do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I tell this to new clients all the time because usually people that are coming to me have already done work with other alternative medicine practitioners, right? And so
Yeah.
they've been taking probiotics, digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid for a year, right, with no improvement. And then I
Right.
tell them, well, the good bacteria should be living happily in your digestive tract.
Right.
Right? Your stomach should be making acid, your pancreas should be making enzymes, and we can't put in a pill all of the different enzymes that your pancreas makes. That's not possible. I'm sure we haven't even identified all of the enzymes that the
Right.
pancreas makes, right? So, this just like, right, again, it's the mindset that your pancreas is defective. Your
Exactly.
pancreas is broken, right?
Right.
There's
Right.
something wrong with your pancreas that no other pancreases are suffering from, but just yours, just decided to give up the ghost. But thank God we've got a pill for you.
Yep. I know. It's the pill for an ill
Mm-hmm.
mentality, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll fix it. That'll fix it for you.
Right.
It won't, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you have to look at the whole person. You have to understand their mental emotional state, what stress loads they're under, how can they work with that stress, or how can they change their paradigm, how can they start nourishing themselves.
Yeah.
It's a different game.
I have a new client that just started, 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. Both her and her husband work. And so you can imagine
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a lot to take care of a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so when we started working together, what she was doing, very typical, right? I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to have my coffee, and then the caffeine is going to suppress my appetite for a couple hours. And then after I drop the kids off and I kind of get logged into work and, now it's 9:30, now I'm going to eat while I'm working, while I'm on the conference call, right? So
Mm.
I talked with her, we really want to eat within about an hour of when we wake up, right? We got to get
Mhm.
that, get the digestive tract woken up. We want to get some food in there and we want to be able to eat enough during the day so that we can get enough nutrients in. And if we're just suppressing the appetite with caffeine and then kind of getting a half-hearted breakfast in, or breakfast that's so late that then we don't feel like eating lunch, right? We're not going to be able to eat enough food to get enough nutrients in. So, I talked with her about this and she said, oh boy, that's going to be really tough for me because I got to do the drop off and, I got to get the kids ready and I don't know how I'm going to eat breakfast and get them get them to daycare. I said, okay, you know what? We're just going to work on this little piece this week. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. Just try to get a little bit more protein in when you do eat at 9:30, right? Let's set you up
Yeah.
for success. Well, when I met with her on Monday, I'm telling you, in 1 week, she started eating a breakfast at 7:30 with the kids, right?
There you go.
Just because, again, let's go back to Lindlar again. My favorite principle of his, principle 6. Arouse the individual in the highest possible degree to the consciousness of personal responsibility and to the necessity of intelligent personal effort and self-help. I mean, if this isn't brilliant, I don't know what is, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So for me, right, instead of, the way I went about it with her, I gave her some information. She pushed back. She felt overwhelmed. I said, no worries. Let's do what you can do this week, right? You can do
Right.
a little something towards health. It's a little something towards health. We'll just do it that way. But she took that in, right? Because I wasn't generating more resistance from her, right? I wasn't, well, no, you're going to have to do this or you're never going to get better, right? I wasn't
Right. Right.
acting in a way that was going to generate more resistance from her. What do you know? Within a week, she figured it out on her own, right?
Yep. That's empowering the person to a higher level right
Right,
there. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, again, we go back to that blocker. Every functional medicine doctor is treating the gut,
Right. Treating it.
right?
Yeah.
But not looking at, okay, is the person suppressing the appetite with caffeine? Not, I drink coffee. I don't have anything against coffee, but we want to do it in a way where we're not harming, putting a appetite suppressant on the digestive tract, right? Are they eating enough? These little things that people find so challenging to do, right? Changing your eating habits, changing the time that you're getting up in the morning and taking the kids, to school, right? It's very challenging. But if you just work with people on these things, right? Empower them, get them inspired, people will do this. And now we don't have, right? 19 we
19
don't have
supplements.
19 pills.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had a man who's a occupational therapist, retired now, and he is a supplement hound. He came in with a litany of things like that too. And he says, okay, so I know I have a problem here and I need help with this because I know I'm taking too many things. But when I read these things, it seems like I need all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's self-medicating him with something like that. It was, 15 to 20 things, and this supplement and this supplement and this supplement. And I spent a whole hour with his suitcase of stuff he brought in,
Uh-huh.
looking at it. It's like, well, you've got actually probably a toxic dose of zinc if you add
Right.
all these things up. And you probably have a toxic load of this if you add all of these things up. He says, I know, that's why I'm really worried. I said, can you go? He's addicted to them, And I
Yep.
said, can you go a day without taking anything? And he about flipped out on me. And I said, okay, so I see where we're at. So we're going to take
Uh-huh.
baby steps here.
Uh-huh.
I got him down to like maybe 3 things, like a vitamin D, a fish oil, and I don't remember what. And he goes, he was really nervous. Am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay with that? And I'm like, you're going to be just fine.
Uh-huh.
You're fine. It will be okay. And then through time, it's like he'd call me and go, well, what about this? I read that I really need more antioxidants. Or, I mean, he's just all wound up in reading all these things all the time, and just wanting to do everything perfect nutritionally for himself. And I said, why don't you look at all of these things and figure out how you could get them in food?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a concept he'd never thought of, hadn't
Right.
even thought of it.
Right.
It's like, you don't need the vitamin A, you could eat a carrot,
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
oh, you could put all that in a soup and you could eat that and you wouldn't have to spend all the money on these things. So it's been a real challenge. He's my most challenging person that's on nutraceuticals. It's just
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, we have been told that we're defective.
Right. And we have to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And we need an outside source.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? You're at the mercy, right? We talk a lot about people being at the mercy of the pharmaceutical industry, right? Which you're seeing, look at all the poor people that have been prescribed Adderall, and then the Adderall supply drives up,
Right.
and people can't think, they can't work, they can't get out of bed. I mean, it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
It's scary.
They're all freaking out. Yep.
But we have the same issue in the nutraceutical world.
Yep.
Right? You're broken and defective. And so you need this special zinc. You need this special beta carotene that we have formulated after 5 years of painstaking research. We have come up with this special beta carotene formula that we put in a pill that'll last in the bottle for 2 years that you need, right? Because your body is so defective.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I know.
But, again, I mean, this is total speculation, but what other factors on a soul level or on a mental and emotional level would set someone up to believe that they are defective? Other than society, right? There can be messages from the home, right? From a teacher, right? You can have a malevolent teacher, right? That might have implanted this, right? So also, I think, right, with your case, like, how did he get addicted to this stuff?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What is going on there on those, on that non-physical plane of his existence, that,
Mhm.
right, this obsession, this need to correct himself or to, fine tune everything, right? Like, what's really going on there? That's
Yeah.
where, the homeopathic remedy that's working on that non-physical aspect, um, you
I,
know,
I think I gave him arsenicum, if I remember.
uh-huh,
I think it was arsenicum. I know I dosed him, and he's, much better. But yeah,
right, right.
yeah, yeah,
And this is what Lindlar was saying, right? We have to have methods that apply to all three planes of these existence. Otherwise, right?
yeah,
You tell him, you don't need the zinc, right? If he's still in that arsenicum state, he's going to be like, this lady's crazy. I'm going to
yeah,
find somebody that tells me I need zinc.
exactly. Yeah. Or I'll see a YouTube video that says, I definitely need it. And I'll call her up and say, no, I really need the zinc.
Right?
Yeah. Which I think he did it with one of them. I don't remember.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
it's incredible. It's incredible. But that's the holism. That's treating the whole person. That's looking at their whole dynamics in their life and their structure, and where the blockages are, and how you can help them grow through that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. I'm going to pull up one more quote here, and this is one, oh, actually, I got a Bill Mitchell quote too. So these are the two quotes that I put in the PowerPoint presentation when I first presented the axioms at the Vital Gathering. This quote's by Carolyn Miss, and she wrote Intimate Conversations with the Divine. And I got this out of that book. It says, the law of holism reveals that what is in one is in the whole, and what is done to one is done to the whole. Perceiving our world through the power and prism of wholeness is a far greater challenge than, say, eating right. Living the law of holism requires that you enter into the true meaning of the word. It shares a root with holy. The laws governing all life are holy. All is one, and all life breathes together. The grace to become whole is, in truth, the grace to know and understand the power of all that is holy within you.
Mm.
Isn't
Yeah.
that beautiful?
Yeah. The ultimate holism.
Yeah, the ultimate holism. And so here I am reading this other book that I didn't think had much to do with medicine. And I trip up upon the law, and it actually said the law of holism. I'm going, well, wait a minute. That's on my axioms of nature, and that's my number 10. Like,
Uh-huh.
what the heck? It blows me away when I find these things. And then I
Uh-huh.
was I was listening to Bill Mitchell. Did you ever have a chance to listen to Bill Mitchell speak?
I have listened to him speak, but not live recordings. Yeah.
Yeah, recordings. Well, he did a talk. I was gonna say it was at, I'm probably gonna blow this. I think it was a Northwest convention in the Seattle area at the time that we had the conference there. And he was talking about Gaia and the planet and how to heal the planet and how to heal people. And he had this amazing talk, and it's been recorded. I have the CD of it. And this is what he said on holism. He said, knowledge of the soul predates intention of the soul. And he continues, we evolve beyond what we can't see, beyond our eyes. We evolve beyond what we can touch and what can touch us. The growth is the beginning of the soul. The choice of the soul is free will or intention. The rate of expansion of the universe defines the vital force. This depends upon speed. Knowing is faster than the speed of light.
Hmm.
The universe has awareness in the vital force. We look at the totality of the patient, not just their body, mind, spirit, but how they are in the presence of Gaia. This
Mm.
is holism.
Mm.
Where,
Wow.
where Bill manifested that from, I don't know, but I just love the way he would speak. Um, and that quote, knowing is faster than the speed of light.
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I had to share those quotes because I think they're pretty special. Pretty special.
A talk that I heard from him, he talked about when he was a student in the clinic. And, back in his day, the clinic, right, the school was not real
No,
robust and the clinic was not real robust.
no, it was not. I lectured at that place. It was pretty rickety. Uh-huh.
So he talked about older gentlemen came in for treatment, and the
Mm.
they had one of those things. I don't know exactly what they're called, but they're like an inversion.
It's the
Uh,
inverted thing where you swing
yeah,
upside down. This is a great story. I love this story. Yeah.
yeah. So he had just kind of gone to a workshop on that inversion therapy, and they had one of those at the clinic, and was one of the few things that they had
Yeah.
available. And so, he's a student, and this old guy comes in with, I can't remember the complaints. Maybe you remember the complaints, but I mean, it wasn't really like a back complaint where you would associate using an inversion.
Yeah, the guy
Uh,
actually had some sort of cancer or something, pretty aggressive.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And so he said, "Hey, let's do this inversion machine. We'll you'll get your ankles in there, and we'll flip you upside down, and you know what." So he did this, and the man loved it and improved tremendously, absolutely improved tremendously, just with this inversion machine, right? And like you say, it was something like cancer. I mean, you would never
Yeah.
associate, we're going
No.
to decompress your spine, I
Right.
mean, it would,
Right.
but that's what he had available to him,
That's
right?
right. Right.
And I think it's such a testimony, I think so many times, I mean, this has really been coming through for me in the past year in particular. I think so much of what we do, it's really not even the specific thing that we're recommending that people do. It's really coming through for me more and more that you're working with me and you're being heard on such a profound level, like this is, is this really what we're doing for people in this? Is this really just the pure root of healing is just actually hearing somebody, right?
Right.
And countering this constant drumbeat that we're defective and broken, and there's something wrong with us, and God knows why your pancreas stopped work, just countering that. We are such a profound counter to that. And how much of that is really what is helping, right? The vital force, right? You're just giving people that affirmation, that hope, they're being heard. And then what's
Yeah.
possible after that?
Right. What is possible after that? And I've actually been accused by a medical practitioner of falsely giving hope to someone.
Hmm.
And it was this, I'll give this quick story. It was really interesting. Years ago, we had a gentleman who'd had a stroke, and his wife came to me and says he's in the rehab facility, but they're not helping him. I think they're just trying to kill him, is what she said. And she said, could you please come and care for him in this facility? And I was like, I don't know if I'm welcome in this facility. Is it okay? Have you checked with the doctors and things? And they said, oh yeah, I can bring in massage therapists. I can bring in whoever I want to help. And I go in there and they have the curtains all closed up on him. And I open the curtains to get sunshine in, and I bring in music, and he's fairly not verbal. I mean, he really had a really severe stroke. And she says, the doctors came to me the other day and asked me to sign a document to donate his organs.
Hmm.
And she says, he's not dead.
Yeah.
What are they thinking? And I said, well, okay, let's do different care.
Yeah.
So if it's okay for me to come in, I will cart my hydrotherapy stuff at my lunch hour. I'll come to the care facility and I'll do hydrotherapy on him, 3 days a week is what I can do. We're going to dose him with these homeopathic remedies. She's bringing in soup and cooking for him and all
Uh-huh.
that stuff. And she brings in the grandson and they play and they dance around him. And so suddenly this man who was expected to die is better and gets transferred to a long-term care place. And they do the same thing. They shut the curtains. They turn, it's like, she goes, no, open the curtains up, get that sunshine in there, brings in plants. She's got his favorite music, and he's coming around. And I'm in there wringing hot towels and cold towels and
Uh-huh.
bring my big bucket of stuff. And she brings in a hot pot of hot water because they can't turn the water on hot enough at the sink for me because they don't want somebody to get burned, I guess.
Right.
So anyway, we have this whole fiasco thing going. And then the social worker calls me aside one day. She meets me in the hallway. Oh, you've been caring for him? Yes, I have. Well, I need to talk to you today. Like, okay. So I go sit in her office and she says, you cannot give this family false hope. And I said, false hope? She goes, he's not going to make it. Why are you giving this woman hope that she's going to have her husband back? And I said, have you seen his improvement? I said, what does it take for him to get out of this facility? And nobody had told the wife this or the guy this, and he's speaking now at this point. It's like, what does it take for him to get out of here? Well, he has to be able to transfer himself from the bed to the wheelchair, and he has to be able to wheel himself down the hallway. I says, is that all? She says, yes. I said, have you told him this? She goes, no. I said, why not? Because he doesn't know what it takes to get home. So I went and told him, and I ignored her thing about giving false hope. I said, what's wrong with supporting people to heal? I don't understand. Anyway, I just left. And she goes, well, just gave me a warning and shaking her finger at me. And I went and told the family, I said, listen, I told him, as soon as you can transfer from your bed to that wheelchair and you can wheel yourself down that hallway, you get to go home. And his eyes lit up and his wife went, what? And I said, yep. And they go, okay, we are working on that. And within 2 weeks, he could do it, and they released him home.
I mean,
But I was accused of giving false hope.
when she says he's not going to make it,
Right.
none of us are going to make it.
And
in
what
the
gives
sense,
her
right?
the right to say that?
Right.
What gives her the power to say that?
Right. We're all not going to make it one day. Nobody
No.
gets out of here alive.
Nobody
right?
gets out of here alive.
How about we live in the most dignified manner that we possibly can during the time that we have?
Exactly.
Which no one knows when that's going to be.
No. Yeah.
Well, Medscape just put out an article yesterday, and I'm going to be talking about this on my podcast this afternoon. So let me actually pull it up here. So Medscape did an article on how PCPs are penalized for positive outcomes from lifestyle change.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'm going to blow this up on my podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Today. Okay. So they're looking at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They have a national quality strategy. And that national quality strategy penalizes doctors and pharmacists. So the pharmacist actually gets penalized if the metformin refill doesn't get continued.
Really?
The doctor gets penalized if the diabetic isn't diabetic anymore, right? Because now we don't have the follow-ups.
So how are they getting penalized? Monetarily?
They have, so the national quality strategy actually ranks the doctors and the pharmacists. They give them like a star rating. So doctors and pharmacists are seeing their 5-star rating in the system go down to like a 3-star rating because the person doesn't have diabetes anymore.
The drugs enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my. So wrong.
Right.
That is so wrong.
So
Oh,
then the
that's so
comments,
wrong.
Medscape can be very infuriating, but I like to read the
Yeah.
comments a lot of times. And so the comments are from doctors and pharmacists corroborating the report that they've had their bonuses, reduced. They've been called into, the office and, we're not getting enough revenue from you because you talk to the diabetic and have him eat less sugar.
Oh my goodness.
So they're
Oh
getting
my
called on the carpet
goodness.
for this.
Isn't that interesting?
In the article, they acknowledge, let me pull up the direct quote from the Medscape article. A growing body of evidence supports lifestyle behavioral interventions to treat, and when used intensively, even reverse common chronic conditions such as cardiovascular disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. And they say that, it's well known that 80% of chronic health concerns could be turned around with lifestyle medicine.
Right. Right.
But then they're being penalized if anybody spends more than 12 minutes with the patient to actually review any lifestyle factors.
Oh my goodness sakes.
Right.
Yeah, that's how broken the allopathic medical system is. That's how broken they are.
Right. And again, I have had, again, we all hear these stories from our patients. Well, I have a client that I was working with earlier this year, debilitating migraines. She's completely debilitated. And she's on a statin. Right? So in addition to these migraines, she's got no energy, her muscles hurt, she can't go, it's like,
Yep.
what, what's the statin? What's something else, right?
Right.
So, and then of course she can't eat anything. She's, literally eating like a bird. I mean, no appetite, all, the whole thing. So we get her appetite increased, her digestive function improved. She can actually eat 3 full meals, which was like a miracle. She's starting to feel better. And at that time, I decided, you know what, I think if we do some supplemental CoQ10 now, it will actually get into the system. I was afraid to give it to her until her digestive function was adequate enough to even do CoQ10.
Yeah.
As as most people are aware, migraine sufferers are super sensitive, and any little thing can, take them down. So I was waiting for her to be able to eat 3 meals. I put on CoQ10. You can imagine how much better this woman felt.
Oh, I bet.
With, right, being able to eat. We've built the blood up. We started clearing some toxins. We get build up that CoQ10 in the system. So at that point, she got mad. She actually got mad. And because I had told her, the issue with statins is it shuts down your body's ability to make CoQ10, and that's a real necessary nutrient for your cellular energy production. It's kind of a critical piece, right?
Yes.
So when we added that CoQ10 on board, and then she had that necessary nutrient in her blood, she got angry and she said, "Why didn't my doctor ever tell me this?"
Right.
Yeah.
You feel betrayed because you put your
Exactly.
faith in those doctors. Yeah.
And how many times have we heard from patients, "My doctor never told me that I could get better."
Oh, it's not in the vernacular. Yeah.
Right. My doctor never told me that there was anything other than Topamax. My doctor never told me that there was anything other than Cymbalta.
This drug. Right.
Right. Because, and what the underlying assumption is from the patient is, well, the doctor has my best interests at heart. And so if this were something that I could do through my own accord, he would have told me that. So the fact that he didn't must mean it's really bleak. it must be really bleak for me because that was never mentioned. And the only thing that was given to me were the medications, right? So I must be really, really defective.
Right. And I'll have to be on this for life
Yeah.
because that's just how it goes.
Bad genes.
Yeah.
Bad genes.
Yeah. It's a genetic problem. And no, oh, that's aging,
Yeah.
but
Right. Well, what do you expect? I'm
yeah.
50. I'm going to feel like hell now. Right.
Right. Oh my God.
So, this is, I think, again, I love this sixth principle from Lindlar. And I think that if we can get this message out to the public and arouse the individual to the highest possible degree to the consciousness of personal responsibility and the necessity of intelligent personal effort and self-help, because that is what we do to counter this messaging that people are told that their genes are defective.
Right.
One of my clients, her neurologist told her brain had faulty wiring and that's why she was getting migraines. Like, this is
Wow.
what a neurologist told someone, right?
Great. Great.
One of the highest paid medical specialties, neurology,
Love it. My goodness.
right?
Right.
So this is the sixth principle, right? Lindlar identified this 100 years ago, right?
Right.
As necessary. And he talks, throughout this whole book, he talks about the insidious messaging that people 100 years ago were getting from the allopathic establishment, right? And I really think that this sixth principle is a key in our profession to market ourselves, to, nobody is going to work with us until they're inspired.
Correct. Right.
Because it would be irrational to work with us if you were doomed and defective and had faulty genes. It would be highly irrational to go to a naturopathic doctor and pay for their services. That would be kind of lunatic level decision making, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that has to take place is that people have to be inspired. And you have to break through this mental programming that is coming from society and may have been laid down in the family dynamic by the time they were 10 that they're defective, right? So we have to, the capacity that we need to cultivate within ourselves to inspire people is required even to get people into the door.
Yeah, it's interesting because people will tell me that they've heard about my practice from probably 3 different sources before they go, oh, I better look at that, because they see somebody getting better. It's like, how are you getting better? You're off your medication? Wait a minute, who are you seeing? And so then there's this little inkling of hope. There's this little bite, wow, you got better. Maybe I could get better. I guess I'll go see that naturopath. But they have to be sick enough, they have to want to change it. They have to want to be better. They might not even know they can be because they're told they can't, but they want to be.
Yeah.
So it's so much harder these days to change that paradigm for them because it has been so ingrained in their families for so long, as you say. They've grown up with the Tylenol when you have a fever and suppress the fever, and don't I have to take something to stop a cough, and don't I have to get my flu shot, and don't I have to, it's like, yeah, it's so ingrained.
Yeah.
And big pharma and big agra and all these corporations have our control, and they have the power and the money for the advertising, constant advertising. It's just incredible.
This really hit me. This was a couple years ago. I had a client that got like a cold, touch of a flu type of thing. And she recovered from it without taking any cough syrup, without taking any Tylenol, right? Without doing all of the things that she had ever done. And she said to me, I've never gotten better without taking, all of this stuff. And, it's hard, right? It's hard for us sometimes to put ourselves in the shoes of the general public, because if I get a
Yes.
cold, I know I'm going to get better. It's like not even a doubt in my mind, right?
Right.
And, with my clients, migraine sufferers, they have never gone through a migraine. They've never come out of a migraine without taking a triptan.
Right.
They have literally no experience of their body going into a migraine and coming out of the migraine on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And they will say to me, nothing will take it away but the Imitrex.
Right.
And it's like, well, like, again, migraines, they're a, they're a self-limiting condition. You will eventually get out of the migraine.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, I've done it many, many times, right?
Yeah. Right.
But they have never experienced coming out of a migraine, right? In their mind, the only way they can get out of that migraine flare is by taking an external product that someone else, right? It's like the sense of helplessness, right? It's so profound. I'm reliant on this thing that my insurance company only gives me 9 a month, and then the pharmacist has to fill it in time, and I can't take, like, I'm completely dependent on this external thing to come out of a migraine.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
This is what we have to inspire people
Right.
through.
Yeah, they have to learn to know that they can trust their body, that their body is wise and it has the ability to heal. They're not taught that. It's
No,
not a concept. No.
no,
Mm-mm.
no. In their mind, once that migraine hits, they're going to be in a migraine for the rest of their life unless they take an Imitrex.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's thank God I have the Imitrex, right? Because if we have that mindset,
Right. Right.
well, thank God for this.
And they don't even think, what did people do before Imitrex was around?
Uh-huh.
What happened? What happened back then when great grandma had a migraine?
Right.
What did she do?
Right. Right. The
Yeah.
Greeks wrote about sick headaches. The
Yeah.
ancient Greeks, right? It was
Yeah.
one of the best documented conditions, migraines,
Migraines.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, what did people do
Yeah.
without the Imitrex, right? Well, they were just so ignorant back then. God knows what they did, right? That's
Well,
the
they just
mindset,
suffered
right?
through it. They just suffered through it in bed. No, grandma did. And she put her feet in hot water to
Uh-huh.
bring her body temperature up. She probably had some herbal thing to drink.
Right.
She probably maybe even had some homeopathic remedies. Who knows?
Right.
And they had ways,
Right. Right.
just didn't suffer in bed and crawl up in a ball. There's things they did. Yeah.
Right.
So interesting. Well, I think we're over time here. It looks like hour 16 on my clock. Well, thank you, Leslie. This has been wonderful. I appreciate you being able to do this with me today. And it's always enjoyable to speak with you anytime. I hope we get to hear more from you and your wisdom with Lindlar, because I think you have this book more memorized than I do, actually.
I don't know about that. I have to refer back to it frequently.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because mine is so tabbed up. I almost can't read all the tabs anymore. I just want to mention on the chapter we were talking about, the threefold constitution of man, the very last paragraph leads us into the next axiom, which is intention. So next time we're going to be talking about intention. Well, let me see if I can find it. Did I mess that up? Oh, nope. It's actually not that chapter. It's the next one. Yeah, it's the next one. What is that chapter called? That chapter is called Mental Therapeutics. So the next chapter is called Mental Therapeutics. And read that one. If you guys have the book, read Mental Therapeutics, and the very last paragraph there, I'll just read this. We can learn to dominate and regulate vital activities and life currents in our bodies so that they will do their work intelligently and serenely, even under the stress of illness or danger. That's intention.
Thanks for joining me today. For those of you interested in learning more about the teachings that are offered at the Naturopathic Medicine Institute and becoming a public member, they have both free and paid, visit thevitalnd.org. For those of you interested in my books and other offerings, I get emails and texts from y'all all the time. Here's just a short summary where you can find them. The Unvaccinated Child is a book. It's a resource guide for parents and caregivers to navigate childhood illnesses in a natural and healthy way. The intended group was the unvaccinated population, but it turns out it's an important resource for vaccinated as well, since we know vaccines do not necessarily prevent the illnesses. Smoke Rings is a book I wrote to help smokers. It is judgment-free. It doesn't matter to me what choice you make in your life, but if you're a smoker, love a smoker, used to smoke, continue to smoke, trying to quit, it doesn't matter. This book helps you be your healthiest version along any step of the way. My most recent book, Homeopathy, A Foundational Approach. This is a great book for someone, whether they're a complete beginner or they're already practicing homeopathy. It starts at the beginning and guides you through the basics and into first aid and acute practice and prescribing, so you can start using homeopathy right away. My workshops and courses can be found at either ecampnd.com or longshadowsranch.net. Again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for your support and have a great week.